Hello, nice to meet you. This is Dr. Kim from Richgo. Hello, nice to meet you. This is Kim Ki-hoon from Richgo. It seems like the banks have gone crazy. That's right. They keep announcing new regulations almost every day. So today, I thought we could discuss what the loan regulations entail, what impacts they might have, and talk about the real estate market.
Honestly, I personally find this quite perplexing. It feels like something has suddenly come in without any warning, like someone cutting in while I'm driving. It seems like everything is just rushing forward all of a sudden. The key point is that the loan regulations have now begun. We already knew that the stress DSR would be implemented in the second phase, but now, suddenly, after around the 20th of August, things are happening rapidly. So, let's take a proper look at what this is all about today. First, you need to understand the background, and here you can see the increase in the balance of housing mortgage loans from the 5 major banks. As you can see, in January, February, and March, the numbers weren't that high. However, if you look at April, May, June, July, and up to August, the total amount recorded by the 23rd is 6.8 trillion. So what do you think? The housing mortgage loans are increasing very rapidly, and it seems that the authorities have judged that household debt is currently very risky. Banks are now reducing the limits on housing mortgage loans, shortening the terms, and blocking loans for gap investments. It seems that many changes are about to happen very quickly. First, on a larger scale, I would like to mention that the DSR, debt service ratio, should be applied more strictly than the government's standards. The government has already set some criteria, but they are saying to apply it even more strictly to reduce the limits. Next, they are saying to stop handling interest-only loans, which means we only pay interest for about a year. Since paying only interest is not burdensome, they are also saying to stop this. Furthermore, they are suggesting to halt the application of mortgage insurance. When mortgage insurance is applied, it is excluded from the loan limit, which can reduce the limit by several million won, depending on the region. I will explain this part in more detail later. The condition is to reduce the maximum loan period now. I have a lot of complaints about this from the authorities. Originally, there were no 40-year or 50-year loans. There weren't any, but then they suddenly introduced these long-term loans starting from 2023 when they brought out special insurance. Because of this, my monthly repayment burden has become very small, right? So people bought houses recklessly without fear. I'm in my mid-30s to early 40s, and if I take out a loan for 50 years, how old will I be when I finish paying it off? It's just laughable. We don't even know if we'll be alive by then. But people aren't thinking about the distant future. Who set this up? Suddenly, they're saying to reduce the loan period from 50 years to 30 years. That's a reduction of 20 years. Then they're also saying to reduce or suspend the loan limits for multiple homeowners, people who own several houses. Let's say I've retired and only have one house. How am I supposed to live? I would need to take out a mortgage to survive, right? But now they're saying they will reduce or suspend those limits. Additionally, they're planning to suspend land collateral loans and reduce the limits on overdraft accounts. They also mentioned adjusting the loan limits for loan brokerage firms to around 200 billion won per month. So, when you look at this comprehensively, it feels like they're tightening the belt suddenly, without even signaling, just completely tightening the loan belt. Many people will likely be bewildered, and those who urgently need loans might rush to the bank to gather as much information as possible.
In fact, it seems that this is a regulatory measure introduced to curb the excessive influx of investments, but there are also actual home buyers, right? In the case of people like them, tightening the loans might leave them feeling lost about what to do, and it seems that some may be taken aback by such sudden and unpredictable changes.
I am really quite taken aback as well. However, you need to understand the background of why these movements are changing so rapidly. Not long ago, our Bank of Korea governor mentioned something important. What did he say? He said that if debt continues to increase, what could happen? A financial crisis could occur. South Korea has too much debt right now. However, as debt continues to increase significantly, people are recklessly buying homes. If this continues, it could lead to serious problems. Right now, it's all happening so quickly, 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 quickly. When I criticize the banks for managing loans only through the easy method of raising interest rates, which only increases the interest, I asked, why should we manage loans? What about my child?
For a while, I used the bank a lot.
I heard that the interest rates have been raised 22 times since July at the bank. But as it keeps going up, we hear a lot of comments like, is this really such an easy way? It's not helping consumers. Are you just benefiting yourselves? Right? So what does that lead to? Banks are hurriedly trying to come up with alternatives, but this has come on too suddenly.
That's right.
So here you can see that the financial authorities are instructing the banking sector to apply the debt service ratio, DSR, more strictly than the government's standards. So, reduce the housing mortgage loan limits. Why? Because household debt is too risky. To put it simply, the government's DSR standard is 40%. But if banks conduct their own assessments more strictly, what happens?
Can rise.
They are saying that it will be applied at 30% or 35%. Then what will happen to the loans? They will decrease, right? This means that the number of people who can take out loans will also decrease. And along with this, we recently recorded a broadcast, right? What was it? We are going to implement the stress DSR. But what did we say about the metropolitan area?
Said, use pin set material.
That's right. While the virtual interest rate is originally set at 0.75%, the metropolitan area is assigned a virtual interest rate of 1.2%, which means that the loan limits are further reduced only for the metropolitan area. That's correct. Additional details like this are also included. So I believe that a significant chill is sweeping through the loan market as various entities suddenly start to intervene. For instance, Shinhan Bank has announced that it will strengthen its own review process. They are also considering loans for living stability for multiple homeowners and the operation of fixed-rate mortgage loans. The bank with the largest outstanding balance of housing mortgage loans is KB Kookmin Bank. Kookmin Bank has announced that starting from the 29th, for properties located in the metropolitan area, the maximum mortgage period has been reduced from the previous 50 years to 30 years, but this applies only to those under 34 years old. This means that if you take out a 30-year housing mortgage loan instead of a 50-year one, the amount you have to repay each month will significantly increase. This will make it burdensome, and as a result, people may not be able to take out loans. What does that mean? You won't be able to buy a house. So in short, don't overextend yourself. This means don't take on debt to buy a house. That's the current message. Next, they are saying to stop operating mortgage loans that only require interest payments. Additionally, previously there were no restrictions, but the limit for mortgage loans intended for living stability funds has been reduced to 100 million won. Do you have a house? This one? They are saying that they will only provide 100 million won as living stability funds right now. After that, they are also planning to restrict the application of mortgage insurance for new housing loans. I will explain this in more detail later. And loans are not just for apartments or houses. If you look at it, there is something called nadeji, which refers to land without any buildings on it. So they are saying that they will stop providing mortgage loans for nadeji. If you only have land, they won't give you a loan right now. This is all happening too suddenly.
There are really a lot.
There are a lot of them. It's like if we compare it to boxing, it feels like suddenly getting hit hard out of nowhere. Moreover, they say that the loan limits for Jeonse, key money deposit loans from other banks, will not be allowed. This means switching to a Jeonse loan from another bank. For example, I had a Jeonse loan with our bank, but I want to switch to Kookmin Bank. Is that possible or not? It is not allowed. And in the case of Kookmin Bank, not only are they halting housing mortgage loans, but they are also stopping loans for vacant land. Additionally, there are measures from other banks as well. What else is there? They are significantly reducing the limit on overdraft accounts, which used to be between 100 million and 150 million won, down to 50 million won. Essentially, they are cutting back on just about everything. In the case of Woori Bank, the maximum limit for mortgage loans aimed at stabilizing the living conditions of multiple homeowners has been reduced from 200 million won to 100 million won. Additionally, to prevent gap investments, it is stated that for Jeonse loans, they will only be provided conditionally based on the premise of transferring ownership and cancelling trust registrations. Next, there will be some difficult discussions about new housing mortgage loans, MCI and MCG, but I will explain this a bit later. Now, the next topic to discuss is the Bertimok and Didimdol loans, which are policy loans. They have very low interest rates. If you look here, if you apply for an amount that is 30% or less of the loan limit, what will happen if you apply for just a small amount of the loan? We will offer preferential treatment. The interest rates on loans are already low due to the policy rate, and if you apply for a little, we will give you a discount. Next, even if you take out a loan, if you repay it quickly, the interest rate on the remaining loan will be lowered.
On the contrary, if you repay slowly, they say they will impose a virtual interest rate. That's how it is, right? Yes. I have nothing to say. There are too many regulations, and if you look at the scope of the regulations, they seem quite strict.
This is likely to have a significant impact on the market. Additionally, regarding Jeonse loans, there was an article published on August 28th stating that household loans have surged so rapidly that it could potentially lead to a financial crisis. Due to these concerns, banks are increasingly tightening not only housing mortgage loan limits, but also the limits on leasehold funds, or are completely closing their lending doors.
In fact, Jeonse is not for investment, but for actual living purposes. However, if the limits on Jeonse loans are tightened like this, for those without homes, they will have to resort to monthly rent, which will be even more burdensome. Yet they are planning to reduce the limits on Jeonse.
So why is this happening all of a sudden? What are we supposed to do? This doesn't seem right. And now I want to talk about something today. It's good that we provide loans for Jeonse lease funds, but even if we do our best, we should consider income and check the DSR, debt service ratio, as well. Otherwise, it wouldn't be a problem. However, many experts and foreign media are saying that the Jeonse fund loans are not being properly assessed in scale, and they are not being managed well right now.
If someone has already taken out a loan, the new regulations will apply to them afterwards. Typically, real estate investments are not planned for just a month or two. They often involve years of planning and investment. If that happens, suddenly setting a limit on Jeonse loans will change the amount of money I had planned.
What I mean is, as we create policies, I hope the bank officials keep this in mind. Have you ever sprained your ankle? So, usually when you sprain your ankle, it's because you think the surface is flat, and when you walk, there's no problem. But if you suddenly encounter even a small height difference, it can make a difference. And that's when you sprain your ankle. I've sprained my left ankle badly, twice, and both times it was in such cases. However, when you look at the height, it's not that high. What I'm trying to say is, if you are mentally prepared for it, even a height of about 1 meter can be managed. If I jump down with that mental preparation, the impact is minimized.
Prepare in advance.
That's right. There should be some preparation and planning in advance, and people should be involved for it to become a policy, but suddenly it just comes in out of nowhere. So what are we supposed to do about this right now? No matter how important the household loan issue is now, I would really appreciate it if we could have a little more time to prepare for these things, gradually, seriously.
This is exactly what I was thinking. What if the data, which was originally scheduled for July, was actually done in September? If that had been done in July, and if the market's upward trend had slightly stalled, wouldn't these banks have also implemented such regulations?
That's right. What this means is that many people are only thinking about immediate gains. From my perspective, it's like they're moths to a flame, because they are solely focused on immediate benefits. They think that extending the loan period and linking it more closely to the DSR, debt service ratio, is actually an opportunity. This is extremely risky. Because of these factors, side effects are now occurring. And due to the balloon effect, the DSR has become much tighter and stricter in September. So, to continue the discussion, it is reported that KB Kookmin Bank will only handle Jeonse loans within the limits of the increase in the rental deposit starting from September 3rd. It is reported that conditional leasehold loans, which could be used for speculative funds such as gap investments and purchasing homes with Jeonse, will be suspended.
It means not to engage in gap investment.
That's right, and in the case of Shinhan Bank, they are reportedly not providing conditional leasehold loans that involve landlords, ownership transfers, the cancellation of senior claims, or reductions, and the disposal of housing with the aim of preventing gap investments. So I think this is coming in too strong and there might really be some backlash. Next, they say they will also implement this mortgage support, but we don't need to know what that is. The important thing is how much the loans will decrease because of this. What this means is that it is an insurance that you subscribe to at the same time as taking out a housing mortgage loan. Without this insurance, only the amount excluding the small rental deposit can be borrowed. There is a system in place to protect small tenants, referred to as small rental security deposits. Therefore, only loans excluding this amount are possible, which is why the loan limit is being reduced. In other words, if we look at the metropolitan area, initially the additional interest rate was 0.25% instead of 0.75%. So, how much does this 0.25% increase to? It increases to 1.2%. That's right, and if you exclude things like small rental deposits in Seoul, the limit is 55 million won, so the limit of 55 million won is being reduced. Additionally, the limit is being reduced again and again, like this. In Gyeonggi province, it is currently 4,800. The limit for the remaining metropolitan cities will be 28 million won, while other regions will be around 25 million won. This is how the limits will be reduced. Now, let's think about this for a moment.
Real estate capacity significantly reduced. It came out strong, right?
That's right. July had the highest transaction volume, and it was the hottest month. Starting from August, we have seen a slight recovery in transaction supply. But looking at the transaction trends, the number of transactions in Seoul has decreased. So I understand that the excitement is cooling down a bit. Since there is a sudden adjustment in loans, the last-minute demand might last until the end of August. But what will happen starting in September? It's not just the sales that are tightening. Even the Jeonse long-term lease is being restricted, and overall, everything is tightening. In the case of KB, they are currently reducing everything, including negative balance accounts. So, overall, the amount of loans will likely decrease. Then, what will decrease? Liquidity will decrease. That's right, liquidity will decrease. So now, I was planning to buy real estate with all my savings, but I won't be able to do that, right? Therefore, the real estate market, you will be negatively affected. Well, we need to think about this. As I have repeatedly mentioned, all investments, all assets are. The more people there are who can buy it for a price higher than what I paid, the greater the likelihood that the investment will be successful. So, what does it mean that the government is suddenly intervening in the real estate market and tightening loan regulations in the banking sector? If I connect now, in August, will there be many people I can find afterwards? The answer is no. It means that the number will significantly decrease. I have repeatedly mentioned that, starting in September, we will reach a turning point with the stress DSR, and I have said that this turning point will come. Once that happens, the supply will decline in September, and after about a month or two, around mid-October or November, transactions are likely to stagnate significantly, and prices may even drop. I have mentioned this before, and I will keep an eye on how this progresses.
The market itself is somewhat unstable right now. With policies and regulations coming out so abruptly, I feel like we shouldn't act recklessly during such times. Right. Also, I think I need to try working on a daily basis.
Well, if you want to buy now, you might as well wait until around 2036. It would have been fine to buy until then. But that's the case with all investments, right? You shouldn't buy just to gain right now. It definitely makes sense to gain. So in about 1 or 2 years, whether what I'm saying is right or wrong will probably become clear.
In fact, during Moon Jong-guk's time, there was a continuous rise for 5 years, but that was because it had come up from such a low point. However, it could be considered somewhat risky right now, as it feels like we are just briefly stopping at a certain point.
That's right. And now these policies exist. But in fact, supply policies and such do not immediately affect the market. So, it's okay to be a bit unconventional with things like this, but regarding financial policies, such as the special mortgage program, or the newborn special measures, and the tax exemption limit for newly built homes, these are policies that can immediately stimulate the market significantly. We need to be really careful when implementing these. On the other hand, loan regulations should provide us with some time to prepare and adjust. If we don't, it could lead to unexpected situations, and I think there will be people who end up getting hurt because they didn't foresee this happening. This is what worries me the most.
Do you remember last time when the 88 measures came out, we were like, How can there be no financial policies like this? Did we do it like this? And are you watching our broadcast right away? I was so surprised because it came in so suddenly. Anyway, I think we need to watch how things will change. After Chuseok, today we discuss the ongoing regulatory measures being introduced by the banking sector and their potential impact on the real estate market in the future. Thank you. Yes, thank you.